Oops, did that take, let's see. Okay, hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson, and welcome to tonight's live Path to Prosperity webinar. Welcome to all of you. Most of you are in the Investor Agent Training Program. A lot of you, though, are in other programs like Flipping for Profits, Rental, Flipping for Profits without the risk, Rental Profits without the pain, Turning rental problems into real estate profits, and of course, Wholesaling so everybody wins. So welcome aboard to all of you. Welcome aboard, especially all the newer folks, and of course, all you veterans. And we got people literally here from coast to coast, and Canada, US, and even the Bahamas. So welcome to all of you. For those of you who are new, you'll notice that you are in mute mode. And of course, that's because we can't have everybody, 100 of us live and actively vocal at the same time. However, I can and will unmute you from time to time. For the most part, though, we just use the question box. You post your questions in a question box, and I take breaks throughout the material, and then we'll cover all the questions. And I go through one more time at the end to make sure all the questions have been answered. Also, little bit of housekeeping. Just remember to please look for the recording of this the very next day. Beverly's going to send it out along with updates to the schedule, updates to the systems, the platforms, the material. All of that's in there. Of course, the recording of this webinar is going to be in there also. So keep an eye out for that the day after every one of these weekly webinars so you can stay on top of things. There's multiple platforms. There's the Digital Chalk Learning Platform. There's the silver level membership site in My Investment Services. And of course, the community site is on there. So we do update those. The vendors update them also. So we need if you guys could pay attention to all the updates, that would be wonderful. I appreciate that. I know Beverly would too. So welcome aboard, everybody. Real quick, my schedule. So I'm in Charlotte this week. Next week, hang on one second. So Charlotte this week. The next 2 weeks I'll be in South Carolina. And then in the month of June, I will be pretty much in Georgia the entire month of June. I'll be taking the week, starting the 4th of July, I'll have the rest of that week off. The week after, I'll be in Nashville the week of July 9th. And the week after that, I'll be in Indiana the week of July 16th. After that, have a week off, and then New Jersey for the next 4 weeks, the end of July into late August. That we haven't started that yet, but everything else is in place and secured. So for those of you who are in Nashville, Georgia, Indiana, South Carolina, you see I'm going to be in the area. Just remember, you can always contact me. We can go hang out, have dinner, and more importantly, if you're doing a workshop for your consumers, which you should be doing, I'll be glad to come and represent and give you my time there at your workshop if you'd like to do that. Just let me know ahead of time when I'm in the area. I mean, I can't jump around all over the country and Canada doing that. But when I'm in Charlotte, for example, while I'm here, I'm meeting with some people from the local RIA group who I met at the annual RIA conference. RIA's REIA, Real Estate Investors of America. And I spoke at their annual conference, and I've been invited to speak at a couple dozen different RIA groups around the country. So for you Canadians up there, I just came back. So beautiful Mother's Day, eh? And we do have some investor clubs, RIA, in fact, up in Ontario, okay? Several different groups, in fact. In fact, if any of you are interested in starting your own, I know, Ed, you're in Mississauga, and I think one or two of you in London and a whole bunch of you in Toronto. Just Google it. It's easy to sign up and join. You don't even have to be part of the national chartered process. I mean, we want you to, but people start their own RIA groups and they don't pay the dues. They're not part of the national organization. So in any case, a wonderful way to drum up a clientele. So in any case, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into tonight's subject. So first things first, I want to talk about multi-units in commercial properties. Multi-units being anything 2 or more units per property. In the residential world, anything up to and including 4 units is still considered residential. Usually you'll find these things on the residential databases. Anything up to and including 4 units. It's not just realtors but insurance, finance, they're all kind of make that dividing line right at the 5 unit mark, okay? Oops, sorry. There we go, 5 unit mark. How about that, okay? Anything residential, even if it's residential, but it has 6 or more units, we call that commercial, okay? So in any case, 5 or more, excuse me, 5 or more. And anything non-residential is usually by default considered commercial properties. So the question was, what do we do? How do we work with those properties and how do we work with those people? And the good news is if you're in the investor agent training program, one of the added benefits of that is it does position you well to get some commercial business, either now or in the future, okay? So if you think about it, the calculations are really the same. In other words, how you calculate cash flow is not any different whether you're dealing with 5 units or 105 units. There are some more sophisticated calculators, no doubt about it, but the basic premise of taking your gross rents, subtracting your expenses, taxes, insurance, maintenance and repairs, leaving it with what we call the NOI, net operating income, and from that you deduct your mortgage payments, which is your debt service, principal plus interest. Then what's left is your actual cash on cash return, cash in pocket return. Same thing. Now, when you get to the larger properties, okay, we do use more sophisticated calculators that take into account more variables. In other words, there's a lot more expense involved with a 100-unit building. You're going to have, typically a regular pest control contract. You're going to have regular lawn and snow removal if you're in the north, okay, or just lawn if you're in the south, or if you're somewhere out west, it could be sand removal, okay. Also, security systems, telephone systems, all those things. You generally have laundry. You generally have contracts, maintenance and ongoing upkeep contracts with those vendors to keep your building up and running in all those regards, security, laundry, the whole 9 yards. So we account for all those in the calculators that we use for bigger properties. We just have more categories, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So in any case, the reality is finding those properties, we generally do not use the same tools that we use in the residential world. In fact, we almost would never do that. So one of the things I wanted to go over tonight is, well, how do you actually find these properties? And I know you've heard me talk about this a lot, but one of the main ways, man, guys, is just using the letters that we provide you. The letter that I go over when I teach the class, the live in-person class, that's what we call the mom and pop letter. That's real basic, very unbranded. It's about as unbranded as you can get and still be legal for Ed up in Ontario, particularly in the city of Toronto. You can't do what's called unbranded marketing, okay? And we don't do that anyways. It's just there's different degrees of branding. However, there are certain requirements, not just in Ontario, guys, but in New Jersey, California, even New York. There are some greater requirements when you're marketing to people. In other words, you have to let them know who you are and why you're contacting them. You can't keep that a secret until the very end. So for example, California, New Jersey, on the envelope, you've got to let them know on the envelope that you got to name the broker. And sometimes in California, you've actually got to put the broker's ID on there, okay? In most other states and provinces, you don't have to do that. It's not required on the envelope. You do have to disclose inside in the contents of the envelope, which is your letter. Okay, so let's just get to the letter. The one that I go over in class is what we call the very informal or very unbranded letter. It's not completely unbranded. In the letter at the bottom, we do let them know that we're a realtor. But at the top of that letter, if you remember, guys, there's no letterhead. Okay, so let's just bring that up. Let's just go ahead and grab that. So hang on one second here. I'm going to go to, I just sent this out. Let's see who got that. Kate Lucas. Let's go to Kate Lucas. As I just sent this to her email reminder, send Kate. Okay, so I should have this in here. All right, hang on one second. There we go. Commercial section, letter, checklist. Here's a letter. Okay, so here's the unbranded letter, guys, right? All of you should have this. At least all of you who've seen me teach live in person, I always give this to you in the classroom. Any of you that do execute the campaign, we do give you, let's just go back to the email you send, you'll see what you get when I send this to you. You get the letter itself, you get the checklist for using the letter. Here's how you actually use the letter, okay? I think there's probably a dozen or more steps involved. Whoops, excuse me. And almost 11. Step 11 is always take action, right? Not quite 12 steps. Also, the transcription, the recorded webinar that describes in great detail how to use the letter. We always give you that also. So all of you have access to this, but I just want to go bring up the letter here again real quick. So this is the unbranded letter. This is a letter we generally use for smaller properties. We call it the mom and pop letter because we're sending it to people who own something relatively small, like 4 units or less, and the owner themselves, we can tell they probably just own a few properties, right? Sometimes they're maintaining it themselves and collecting their own rents and all that kind of stuff. So that's the almost completely unbranded letter. It's not completely unbranded because we do tell them who we are in the letter. Now let's go to Buy Investment Services, and I'm going to show you the letter we use that's more formal. This is a more sophisticated letter, a little bit more formal. So if you go to myinvestmentservices.com, click on members area, okay? And then all of us by default are silver level. Some of us are gold and platinum, but regardless of what level you're at, if anything at silver or above, you've all got this basic access here. So what I want to do is on the left-hand side of silver level membership area, scroll down towards the bottom, look under marketing techniques and docs, okay? And you will see the more formal letter that we send to owners of bigger properties. So let's just bring that up. And you'll notice a couple differences right away, okay? First things first is it does have a letterhead, okay? KW Win Realty Team, address, phone number, email, the whole 9 yards, okay? And here you can see this letter here is a lot longer. It's more, has a lot more language in there than the informal letter, which I just had up and now I can't find it. What did I do with that letter? Well, in any case, the one I had up a moment ago, the informal letter. Oh, that was in the email. Sorry, let me go back to that. That was an email I sent to Kate. So I need to go to here, back here. So let me bring this. So here's the informal letter, right? See that? No heading, no letterhead, excuse me, one simple paragraph, and that is it. That's the informal letter. The formal letter, go back to My Investment Services. And here it is right here. Complete with letterhead, the whole 9 yards, much longer. I mean, right away, you're looking at a minimum of 3 paragraphs, okay? And then the same basic ending. So this one here, the one I just have up right now. So Kate, all of you, Daryl, all of you who are doing some larger type properties or anything non-residential, when you're contacting those owners, we would use this letter, all right? Anything that's corporate owned. In other words, it could be an LLC that owns the properties. And then, of course, the underlying owners of the LLCs are folks like you and I, right? But this is the formal one to use in those situations, right? Now, the way you use a letter, it's just like the, let me go back here real quick. Let me go back to the email I sent to Kate. Let's go back here. Okay, for those of you who are really interested in this letter, go on to My Investment Services, right? So go back here. You're going to go back into the serval level. Now I'm going to take you to the actual recorded webinar for this. You can watch this on your own, all right? And we're going to go back to the year 2016. So let's go back here. 2017, 2016. When you go back to late January 2016. So we're going to look for 2016. Oops, that's a little bit too far. -1-27. That means January 27th, 2016. That's the recorded webinar you guys want to listen to. Just go online. You can click on it. You can even download it onto your own hard drive. Getting inventory for yourselves and your clients using the letter and free web resources to locate the owners of these properties. So that whole subject right there, guys, is an entirely different webinar. We did not intend to go into that, how you use the letter tonight, because you can watch this on your own. You can get the transcription that I showed you. Okay, remember that? Which is, let's see, we're gonna go back here, sorry. Go back to Kate's email. Oh, hang on one second. Sorry. Here it is. This is the actual transcription of that recorded webinar. So you got that, and you've also got the checklist. Okay. So I want you guys, those of you who are really interested in this and getting these properties, please go through this. This is part of your training that you get automatically. So go ahead and do that. If you still want to do a webinar just on this subject, just let me know, and we'll do that. It'll probably be either late May or sometime in June, because we've already got the agenda set up for the next couple of webinars. So in any case, we use these tools, is what I'm getting at, to get to these properties. We do not use MLS. We don't use CoStar, LoopNet. I mean, I know in the commercial world we have LoopNet and CoStar, no doubt about it. But we want inventory, and we're using these techniques to get the inventory by going under the radar screen. That's how we get the inventory. Whether they're big multi-unit residential properties or non-residential straight commercial properties, even for retail, industrial, agricultural, storage, you name it, same process, okay? Now, somebody asked a question, well, how do we handle commissions on these types of transactions? That's a very good question. In commercial, a lot of times you can work very hard for a long period of time without any payday. But when you get a payday, it's usually pretty good, okay? Sometimes you can structure your commission though. So this is what Daryl was asking about. It's definitely, if you guys are doing commercial or want to, please take notes on this. When you're doing commercial work, you can structure your compensation in a lot of different ways. You don't have to just take straight commission. I know one question is always, well, do I take a smaller percentage when I'm doing the bigger properties? Not necessarily. One of my former brokers came to me from another brokerage company in Florida, and he sold a couple of golf courses down there. I mean, we're talking $40–50 million sales, and he actually got 6%. Okay, so just because you're dealing with the big properties doesn't mean you got to take a hit on your commission on a percentage basis. That's not necessary. You do want to negotiate. I mean, by law, we can't mandate this is my commission. It's supposed to be negotiated between you and the seller. Okay, which leads me to something else, which is kind of unique when it comes to commercial properties. A lot of the bigger brokers, like Marcus Millichap, for example, when they define their commission, their compensation on commercial listings, they only account for their own commission. They're not accounting for the commission of the other agent if someone else brings in the buyer. A lot of times those are not accounted for. If you're representing a buyer of a commercial property, you need to ask, what is the commission, what is the compensation offered on that listing? And if they say none, what that means is you've got to collect your side from your buyer, okay? Or through negotiating, you can work it out where the seller participates, but I don't think that's going to happen in this scenario where they've already agreed to have only pay the listing broker, okay? So just know this. In the commercial world, they're not going to roll out the red carpet for you like generally we do in the residential world. A lot more competitive, a lot tougher, and you got to really watch out for yourself, and you got to take care of yourself, okay? A lot of times they're not even returning calls. In other words, a commercial broker, like, I don't want to name any names, but you know, they're CB Richard Ellis, right? Marcus Millichap. A lot of times if you call them because you have someone interested in one of their listings, be prepared to not get a call back. It happens more often than you might like to think, because they want to control the whole thing. They want to get all the commissions. They don't want to just get the one side. They want to get both sides. Even if it's detrimental to the seller, believe it or not, they'll still do that. So you need to be aware of that and make sure you look into these things when you do a commercial transaction so you can protect yourself, okay? So in any case, let's talk about how to get creative with your compensation on commercial properties. So for example, one of my old brokers worked on a lease. See, when you deal with commercial properties, it's not always about selling. It's a lot of times about helping these owners lease out their properties. Remember, you've got big apartment buildings downtown, big office buildings, storage, industrial, all kinds of stuff. And so when they're leasing space, I mean, they could be leasing 100,000 square feet, right? And not just for 1 year, but for a multitude of years. So let's say you're a commercial agent and you're representing a tenant, right? A lessee, someone wanting to rent a commercial property. your commission, it could still be like 6%, for example, but 6% of receipts on the rents coming in. Well, a lot of people are thinking, well, it's gonna take me forever to receive my compensation, because every month I got to get another little commission check. Well, that may be true, but also it could be true that you could structure your commission where you get paid everything all up front. Let's say you have a 10-year lease, and on a $100,000 property, 10-year lease, and your compensation is going to be $17,600 a year. Well, here's what happened with this one commercial broker, a different guy from the golf course guy. He was able to structure it so he got his he took a hit. So it's like, if you take all your commission up front, it's usually the discount to the person paying the commission. So in other words, if he had stuck with the program getting paid over 10 years, he would have made a lot more money over a long period of time. Though he opted to get paid up front, which amounted to $176,000. Right now, it took him 18 months to get the buyer, to find the property. The renter, find the property they wanted to rent, negotiate the lease. All that took 18 months. But as soon as it was consummated, he did receive a check for $176,000. He could have been paid more than that, probably over $20,000 a year for 10 years. But he was 26 years old, hadn't earned a commission check yet, and he wanted to take the whole thing up front, and he took a hit on that. So he basically took a 10% hit and got $176,000. Not too shabby for a first commission. So now you can see why a lot of people want to do commercial work, because even on a lease, who wouldn't want to make the $176,000 on one deal? Okay. So you can also structure it so you can get a share of net proceeds. Let's say you're renting out a space to a commercial operation and they sell products or they sell services. You can base your compensation on a gross receipts. So the more money they make, the more money you make. All kinds of, you can get creative with this. You can get you can get a portion based, just basic commission, and another portion could be based on royalties, again, portions of proceeds based on sales for the person actually running the space. All kinds of things you can do. So Daryl, I'm hoping this is what you're asking for. The name of the game is, when commercial compensation comes into place, you can get very, very creative with this, okay? Just be prepared to put in a lot of effort sometimes without any immediate results, okay? It's like residential world on steroids. Residential world, yeah, we got to wait till the closing to get paid typically. Commercial world, that's still true, but a lot of times you're waiting a lot longer. You're not just waiting 30 days or 60 days, you're waiting sometimes years, okay? So, which is why we recommend do this program. So for Kate Crowd, everybody who's interested in getting their license, just keep doing what you're doing, work in the residential world, which is your flips and your fourplexes and things like that, and then build up a business, and then you can move into commercial after that. Much safer, much less risky, and you, quite frankly, you've got cash flow coming in while you're growing, okay? All right, I think I covered everything I want to cover there. We got still 2 other subjects, guys, so hold tight. I just want to check for questions here. Let's see. Gonna go back to the end where I left off. Okay. Ed Hazel. Okay, we got his comments. Okay, Daryl. Here's from Daryl. Daryl, I've been looking deeply into commercial real estate. I do not want to do 2 to 4 units. I want to do commercial units. So interesting you should say that, Daryl, because guess what else I got for you tonight? I'll show you here in a second. Let me bring this up. Whoops. Let's see, Daryl. Okay, Daryl, when we were in Orlando, I gave you the 6th book that I wrote, which is the big one, we call the mothership or the motherlode. It has in there this section on commercial properties. I'm going to show you that tonight. But in that book, Daryl, I want you to read that last section on commercial properties. I know it's going to take a while. But in there, it goes into all of the different facets of commercial real estate, okay? Not just for the investor, but for you and I as brokers. I'm an investor and a broker, and so are you. So in any case, look at that first, Daryl, and then let's have you and I have a strategy call on that. There's a couple guys I want you to talk to, different parts of the country. One guy's up in New Hampshire, another guy's out in Minnesota, excuse me. Oh, Kate, you were asking, when am I coming to Indiana? That is the week of July 16th, Kate. So I know you were saying you could drive down there because that's where you signed that contract with Jeff and Michelle. So bring your fiance if you want, if we'll make the trip, if it doesn't have to work. And I'll be teaching there in Indianapolis and Lafayette, and let's see, Evansville and Jeffersonville. I'm not sure where else, but it'll be mostly on the, unfortunately for you, on the other side of Indiana, not up by Gary, Indiana, but toward the east and south. But that's the week I'll be there. Sorry I didn't get back to you earlier on that. So Daryl, I was ready to make the leap. So Daryl, I would really encourage you, Daryl, to get some transactions going right now, even if it's 5 or 10 units. Let's just get that going, get some business coming in. So when you jump into commercial, you've got some cushion to work on. Okay. Okay. Juliet's saying, we're having severe weather. I hope. Oh, looks like we lost share with Juliet. So she's just typing, I hope I don't, and the word don't never got completed. I think she was trying to say lose connection. So I know where she is. She's up in Fredericksburg, and we had some pretty good rain down here. And well, first it was up in Charlotte. I'm sorry, up in Detroit, and it was down here earlier. So you probably got some of that. Oh, here she's back. Don't lose power or internet. Okay, well, let's look for other questions. Ed Hazel. Ed, how do you find the property in the other cities in the first place? Next, how do you find the name of the buyer of the corporation? So, Ed, if you're looking, like a lot of Canadians, Ed, I'm up there part-time myself. A lot of Canadians are investing in the States, and you can make money doing that. Even if your license is in Ontario, you can still participate in this in the United States. So there's tools. So, and if you go to silver level, let me go back here. Hang on one second. Let me get out of this and go back to silver. So Ed, I'm back in the silver level, Ed. I'm gonna scroll down to marketing techniques and docs. In here, there's some databases for the US and Canada. And then I have some other databases for you, Ed, for Canada. I'll show you here in just a second. But if you click on this, Ed, under marketing techniques and docs, the last entry says important free resources to gather data on people and places. Okay, click on that, and it gives you websites in the US and Canada that you can use to find anything you want on people and properties. Okay, real quick, Ed, in the United States, for most states, with the exclusion of New Jersey and I believe New York, all the other counties, 3,144 counties, provide to you the property tax records on any property in those counties. And they're often have a lot of good data on there, but you can find out, one of those pieces of data is who owns the property. Okay, they'll give you the mailing address of where important mailings go to related to that property. Okay, now let's say it is a corporation that owns a property, or in most cases an LLC. For every state, there's what's called a Bureau of Incorporation. In Virginia, for example, I was just there last month. It's called DPOR, D-P-O-R. You click on that, and you can type in any company. You got to work your way through the website there. Type in any company you want. It'll give you the person's name and address, mailing address, who actually set up the company. Okay. If you go to BNB Publications, which is, let's see, I'm sorry, BRB Publications, the second one right here, Ed. It starts at the national level, and you can drill down by state and by county and get all those different websites there too. Okay, so that's one set of databases. Now the other one, hang on one second. Let me go back to the silver level. Go down to analysis forms and calculators for training modules. Click on that. I'm not sure why they put it in here, but I believe that's where they house the one just for Canada. So we click on that, Canadian resources. Okay, and you will see there's a lot more resources in Canada. So really interesting, guys. For those of you who are just in the States, Canada, number one, is a beautiful country. But number two is Canadians generally have more sophisticated systems than we do in the States. Okay. However, in the US citizens generally have more data available to them when it comes to people and property. So We have in the states what we call the Freedom of Information Act, which made a lot of information available to people, okay, just for the looking. We also have privacy laws. Well, it turns out in Canada, the Freedom of Information laws are weaker, but the privacy laws are stronger, which means even though we have all these really sophisticated tools, we don't have as much data available to us up in Canada, okay? However, we can find all the data. You just gotta be patient and be disciplined and look for it. So Ed, generally speaking, we will use the letter campaign I showed you earlier. And it doesn't matter if you're in Canada. If you want to drum up some referral business or properties you want to invest in yourself, learn how to use the letter. And you can find, if you want to target places like, Charlotte, which is where I am right now, or Atlanta, or Orlando, or Richmond, Virginia, you can focus just on those areas and unearth inventory for you to refer to your clients or by yourself, okay? So let's go back here. I think to answer both Ed's questions. Should be name of owner, yes. So Ed, you're right. You're looking for either an individual person's name or the name of a corporation. And if it's corporation, you go through that extra step to get the person to actually set up the corporation. And then you'll have that person's name and address, okay? Okay, good questions, by the way. Thank you very much. Let's see, this is Daryl. Since I want to do only commercial property, should I start working with the commercial part of real estate with commercial agents? Yeah, Ed, or Daryl, excuse me, yeah, set up a strategy call. I want to find out who the commercial guy is in your market center because I can't remember who it is. Hopefully you have at least one. If not, I may direct you to another market center, okay? Where you are, Northern New Jersey, where you are in New Jersey, we've got commercial, we have a strong presence in some areas and we don't have commercial so strongly in other areas. So we'll help you figure that out, okay? Okay, Juliet, I'm here. Hey, Juliet, good. I'm glad the storms didn't knock you offline there. Okay, let's do this. I think we're pretty good on commercial. So let's do this for 7:36 Eastern. Let me see if I can jump into the next thing. This seems to get a lot of interest whenever I talk about this. So what I want to do, guys, to show you how you can leverage what you're doing, okay? Leverage what you already have in the way of assets, income producing assets to buy other income producing assets. So some of you see me go through this before. It's really not part of the class I teach, but nonetheless, sometimes it comes up because it's very pertinent to what we're doing. And it's such a valuable subject. So real quick, I'll just describe this to you. Some of you probably seen this. Down here is this. When I first started investing, I was doing what's called flatlining, which is buying the same kind of properties over and over again, usually leverage up to my eyeballs, and growing horizontally, not growing vertically. I was only growing horizontally. In other words, I'm adding more and more volume. I'm adding more and more properties to my portfolio, but I'm not gaining any real vertical ground. I'm just adding more volume, right? And let me tell you, it'll take you forever to build up enough substantial wealth and income to be able to retire, right, doing this flatlining stuff. So this is usually all those no money down techniques, buying on terms, which does a couple things. Yes, it does allow you to get into properties with little or no money, but they usually also means you have little or no equity. It also means you have little or no cash flow, right? Certainly not enough to weather the storm, okay? It also means when you use these techniques, you're generally buying inferior properties that just quite frankly need a lot of work, man. I mean, my gosh, they got financial problems, ownership problems, management problems, tenant problems. I mean, it's just physical problems that just goes on and on and on. And this is a lot of gray hair, trust me, right? Now, when I first started using my license, I was attracting these guys because that's what I was doing, right? For a lot of years, by the way, for about 17 years. As a result of using my license, though, I started getting other investors, people who were not flatlining. They were not just growing horizontally. They were also growing vertically. And here's how they were doing it. So this is, I'm going to paint this picture first, and then we're going to go into examples of what this means and how we can use it to our advantage, okay? First things first, they didn't buy the cheap, crappy stuff, okay? these guys, which is what I do now, I started this years ago, probably back in the early to mid 2000s, okay? These folks are generally buying better properties, all brick, Traco windows, nice landscaping, strategically placed around hospital systems, university systems, high-tech office parks. They're buying better properties that are better situated, okay? They're more appealing to the kind of tenants that we want. As a result of them also buying better quality properties, they're also attracting better tenants, okay? The better tenant base. You know, no issues with jobs, and usually they have long tenures at other places. They stay there longer. Good references, good credit checks, all that kind of stuff. And no public records. Okay. Down here, you're generally dealing with more of the stuff like people will have public records or like criminal records, people with money problems, things like that. So they're buying better properties in better areas, which to me kind of freaked me out, because I'm thinking, well, how are they making more money when they're spending more money and buying more expensive properties or putting more money down? Well, the answer came very clear over a period of time. All right, first things first, back to this. The other thing I recognized very quickly was they were very disciplined. They were very patient. They didn't keep buying the same kind of properties, that flatlining stuff. Each subsequent purchase was generally a bigger purchase. For example, more units per purchase. So they didn't keep buying duplexes just because the duplexes are working very well. They forced themselves, they disciplined themselves to only buy the next bigger property in terms of numbers of units. In other words, they start with the duplex. It might take them a year, I don't know, but then get the fourplex. They take them another year, but then they get the eightplex. And after that, it starts to move faster, which let me show you this here. This will make a lot more sense. So the growth projection is not a straight line with this. It's more like a curve that starts off slower and picks up steam over time, okay? So it is a game of patience, but let me tell you, boy, does it pay off. Down here, you just keep on growing horizontally and not really adding much to your bottom line. You're not really gaining any ground, so to speak. These guys are definitely gaining ground. It didn't look that way at first, but over time, boy, did it take off. They had better rent increases. And when you buy bigger properties, the properties are evaluated based on what we call the income approach to valuation. The bigger the property, they're not looking so much at comparable sales, like different appraisal techniques. More units per property, usually they're shifting into the income approach to valuation and away from comparable sale evaluations, okay? So this is what trips up a lot of agents. They get into bigger properties and are wondering, well, what's going on with the values here? It's because the methodology changes, okay? More units per property, the more they lean towards income approach to valuation and less they rely on comparable sale evaluation, right? So in any case, just imagine this. In 4 moves, using this model, growing vertically, right? You're ascending up the ladder. In 4 moves, you just added 2, 4, that's 6, 8, that's 14, 60. You just added 30 units in 4 moves to your portfolio. How long would it take you to add 30 like single family homes, for example, down here? That could take quite a while, and that's a lot of work, man, guys. That's 30 roofs, that's 30 furnaces, 30 air conditioning units, 30 driveways, 30 everything, right? Up here, let's say you got a 100-unit building, 1 parking lot, 1 set of boilers, 1 big laundry room, maybe you got a couple of them, I don't know, but 1 roof. Basically, over time, you will spend less time managing this on a per unit basis, the bigger properties. In other words, if I went to go visit 100 single family homes, that'd probably take me 2 weeks. If I go visit a 100-unit building, an afternoon, I'm done, okay? 1 visit, get the check. You don't have to see all 100 units. Just see this is what I do if you want to write this down. I would let them know ahead of time I'm coming by, okay, the manager, and I would tell them I want a selection of vacant units, 1 that's been vacant the longest, 1 that just became vacant like the day before, all right? I want to see a couple of occupied units on different floors in different sizes, okay? So that way I can see like a sampling of units, all right? Now, when I would get to the office, I would go through what we call the rent roll. So rent roll identifies for every unit who's in the unit and what rent they paid and when they paid rent over their life of their tenancy. So this thing should be up to a year long, okay? And I would look for gaps in the rent rolls. And if none of the units I was going to see that day were one of the units that had a gap in the rent roll, I would question what's going on with this unit right here. If the property manager didn't have an answer, I would say, well, let's go see that unit, okay? So I want you all to write that down. That's kind of a neat little trick when you get to be a big property owner. You generally are going to have to manage the managers, okay? And so what I did was I would go through the normal protocol, seeing my properties, but when I get to the office, I'd always ask for the data and compare the data with what I was getting ready to see, and make some last minute adjustments if I had to, okay? Believe me, you won't have a manager letting your vacancies creep up on you when you manage them like that. And it's not like you're being mean, you're just being a good business person, okay? Actually, give me a shout out. How many of you just realized or liked what I just showed you there? Well, actually, I got to think. You're very welcome. That was fast, okay? I hope that what I just showed you there really helps you tremendously, particularly also for those of you who are looking to manage other people's rentals. Man, really, really important stuff, guys. Managers can always tell when they got a novice versus a pro. When you do this kind of stuff, they're going to look at you as a pro. I promise you, you'll have much higher occupancy rates, much better collection rates, basically a better run building, right? If you don't really know what you're doing and you don't know what to ask for, believe me, the old adage, when the cat's away, the mouse will play, same thing here. When the owner's away, the manager will play. Just manage the managers is what I'm getting to here. But back to this. I want to get to the next part of this, which is this. You can see the growth is like a curve. It does start off slow, but picks up steam over time. When you've turned the corner, what we call a turn the corner, you can shift from the way you invest. In other words, down here, you're always going this flatlining stuff. You're always going into debt to buy the property. You're borrowing to acquire the property. When you turn the corner up here, when you shift strategies, and it starts to really pick up steam and grow vertically, this thing's feeding itself. Here's what this looks like. So let me just describe it to you in plain language, and you can take notes on it. It allows you to go from borrowing to get into the property to getting into the property and then borrowing after the fact. So you use cash, your cash position or your equity position to acquire the next property without getting a loan on that property, okay? You acquire the asset, and later on, you can then leverage strategically, borrow strategically against that income producing asset. So let me just give you an example of what this means. For my own story, okay? In the beginning, what I did was I was growing a pretty sizable portfolio, and I realized I was building up quite a bit of equity. And I wanted to use that equity to buy other properties, right? Now, I first went to a traditional commercial lender, and they said, sure, Mr. Wilson, we'd be glad to make you a loan, but we want to refinance the whole thing. We want to gobble up all those loans, get rid of them, and we're going to finance all of your holdings, plus give you some equity, some cash to go buy the next property. And I thought about that and said, I don't want to do that for two reasons. All right, it's fixed, which means they're giving me a fixed rate, fixed term loan. I will pull out my cash, go buy one property, and then I'm done. I'm right back to where I started from. The other reason is this, guys. This is probably the more important reason. On all of these other properties, the older properties, I've had them, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 years. I started paying those notes down, those mortgages down. And when you look at amortization, what that means is I was now, more of my payments were going towards principal and less of those payments are going towards the interest. You know how amortization works. When you first take out a mortgage and a note, in the beginning, you're paying almost all interest and very little principal. And over time, your payments become more principal and less interest. So I had reached that point with a lot of these properties. I was paying more principal than I was interest. And if I refinanced all those, I would start back over again on the amortization. I would be paying all interest again and very little principal. I didn't want to do that either. So I told the commercial lender, I said, look, and I had to do this a couple of times, by the way, before I got a first yes. They, number one, said we like to be in the first position. Number two is when they listened to my logic, I started turning some heads because I showed them my portfolio. I said, look, here's my tax returns. Here's the portfolio. I don't understand why you guys don't want to make this loan. It's like a no-brainer. Here's what I did. I got a line of credit is what I did against the equity in the portfolio that I already own, right? Not a full-blown 100% loan-to-value equity line, but essentially I think that was about 75% leverage. So let's say I only owed 50% of what I owned. I couldn't borrow the other 50%. It would only give me half of that is what it amounted to. That's what it amounted at that time, was about 75% leverage. What I mean is, let's say I owned $10 million in real estate and I only owed $5 million in debt at that point. They weren't going to let me borrow against the other $5 million 100%. They would only give me half of the equity in the other $5 million equity that I had. Most commercial lenders will make that loan. If they can be in that position and the equity is only 50% leverage, you got yourself a winner. And that's what I did. Went out there and bought that next big property, seasoned it. I fixed up the units one by one, raised all the rents. So as a result, the property is worth a lot more money. All right, I had more equity, more cash flow. I went out and got a brand new forced mortgage on that property now. Remember, it had no lien on it prior to that. I bought it with equity from my other properties. So I had this big, beautiful income producing asset with all equity, no debt, and substantial cash flow. I got a brand new first mortgage on that, but only 50% loan to value. All right. I turned the corner. I didn't need to borrow the whole darn thing. I know it's tempting, but I didn't want to do that. I only borrowed enough that I needed to pay back the line of credit that I was using to buy the property originally. Right. So I paid that line of credit back down to zero. And what do you think that commercial lender did for me when I paid that credit back down to zero, added another producing asset to my portfolio? Here you come up, let's say I'm your lender, and I make this line of credit loan to you, okay? Let's see. And within a few short years, you pay that line of credit back off again, way ahead of schedule, and now you've got another income-producing asset on your books. Well, guess what that looks like to a lender? It looks like you're a good credit risk, and you got more income-producing assets. I want to keep lending you more money, so I increased the line of credit. That's what I was driving at. That's how you can turn the corner. That's why this line starts to go up like that and vertically, because now this machine is feeding itself, right? It's feeding you, it's feeding itself. You're growing vertically, no longer growing horizontally. Now, let me take a break here. Let me go to the questions and make sure everybody's okay with what I just showed you. So Daryl particularly, by the way, everyone out here, even if you're not investing, guys, all the agents, show this to your investors. They will love you for it, okay? Okay, so let me go back here and check for questions. All right, hang on one second. Oops. Everybody's saying they like it. Yeah, I did too. When I first learned this, guys, man, I got to tell you personally, I hope this really helps you, what I just showed you, because this is what changed everything for me. It was allowed me to go from down here, allow me to go from, I was financially independent. I'm buying properties, I'm paying myself, I'm paying my bills, but it was no fun life. This is growing horizontally, flatlining. Just try to go on vacation when you're the one carrying the load with all this stuff, okay? But you are financially independent. The difference is doing this stuff up here buys you financial freedom. Huge difference, okay? Financial freedom. That means going from using trading time for money down here to up here trading money for time. When you make that switch, guys, you're now in a whole different world, and I can't even begin to tell you what that sense of freedom feels like. I know some of you are already starting to feel this. Some of you are getting what I'm saying because you're already seeing this yourselves. And I just want you to know that my personal objective is for all of you in your own investing is to get you to this as fast as you let me do it, because it'll make the world of difference. Okay, so back to this. Back to questions. Gift here. Hi, Gift. My husband wanted to purchase an 8-unit brownstone in downtown Frederick, Maryland for $650. We were going to put down $300K with gross cash flow of $9K per month with carrying cost mortgage of $4K. We net $5K per month. Well, that sounds pretty good, Gift. Hey, Gift, if you can send me that in an email. I know we've got a strategy call coming up tomorrow, Tuesday night, tomorrow night. Gift, please send me an email. Don't wait till right before the strategy call. I mean, if you have to, I understand. I'm going to be teaching tomorrow, though. Okay, so I'll be tied up during the day. But let's take a look at that. Let's make that part of the strategy call. Okay, anything you can give me numbers wise. I'm going to show you how to break it down. We'll go into a couple of calculators, and if you really don't mind, I'd love to bring this up in one of our future webinars as an example to go through with everybody. But it looks like you're on the right track there, so congratulations on that. Okay, I think that was the last question. All right, let's do this, guys. It's 5 till 8. We've got a whole other section on referrals, and I want to wait on that because we could spend all night just talking about referrals. How do you get referrals? How do you build up a referral network? What do you say? What can you offer? There's no way we can cover that in 5 minutes, not even close. So we'll do that another night. What I want to do right now, though, is check for questions again. Plus that, we just kind of jumped across a couple of subjects there. So I don't want to overwhelm you guys with too much input all at once. Because referral, these first two things we went over are very much related, obviously. That's why I did it in that order. Referrals is a completely different subject altogether. So if you guys don't mind, is it okay if we do referrals? The next week we've got a guest coming on. Yeah, let me check here. So on the 30th, we'll go over referrals on the 30th. Okay, guys, let me mark that down. And we'll spend all night just on referrals because it's a great way to, again, leverage your license or your investing activities to generate multiple streams of income. So IA referrals. Okay. All right. I think that is it. If for those of you who don't have the 6th book, real quick, it's partly because we haven't actually officially published it yet. Some of you who've been in either the Northern Virginia 3-day event or the Orlando 3-day event, you've already got the book, the 6th book. For those of you who did not go to either of those 2 events, you don't have that book. If you go to the Atlanta event, which, by the way, real quick, is Friday, June 29th, Saturday, June 30th, and Sunday, July 1st in Atlanta. Location is to be determined, but if you want to go there, mark your calendars. And we probably are not going to publish this book till like the end of the year, but every time we do a 3-day event, we're going to give these out to you for those of you that come. You can all come. You're all welcome to come. It's just we try to do it regionally. So in Chicago, I'll be up there probably first weekend in November. I know I'll be in New Jersey, northern New Jersey, end of August, doing another 3-day event, another one in New York City, end of September. So I don't want you to feel like you got to come, but if you want to come, you're all welcome. I mean, every one of you has earned the right to do that. So keep an eye out for those announcements, and you'll get the 6th book, which is like 540 pages of material as one of the benefits of coming there. So, okay, real quick, let me do one more quick check on questions, and if we're caught up, we will go ahead and close this out. It looks like you're all caught up. So first of all, thank you guys for being on board tonight. I love the subjects we went over. I'm going to close off the webcam because it looks like it's chewing up too much CPU cycle. So I'm going to stop the webcam. All right, that helped a lot. Okay, good. I apologize. The webcam was chewing up a lot of CPU cycles, guys. So I will see you next week on the 22nd, next Tuesday, the 22nd. All right, we've got a special guest coming on. You definitely want to be part of that. In the meantime, thank you all for participating, giving me the opportunity to teach you and serve you. God bless you and your families. So I hope you have an awesome week. And to all the moms, happy Mother's Day. Okay. All right. You guys take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.